Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 14.4 has been out for about a month at this point, and iOS 14.5 Beta 3 has been out for a few days. And I wanted to talk about the overall issues with it, what's fixed in it, as well as your experience based off the YouTube community poll and more. And so the first thing is I'm using iOS 14.5 Beta 3 on my 12 Pro Max. This is my main phone. I also have it on the iPhone 11, and the iPad Pro 12.9 from 2020 is running iPadOS 14.5 Beta 3. But first I wanted to talk about iOS 14.4 for just a moment, since that's been out for over a month at this point, and there seems to be increasing problems over that time. So whether you're using an iPhone 8 Plus like this, or maybe an iPhone 6s Plus, quite a few people experience issues such as closing apps. Maybe they stutter when they close, the animations aren't smooth, sometimes things crash, and the overall experience, while I would say it's better than, say, iOS 13.4 at this point, is just sort of not what you would expect with iPhone for some reason. It seems to be degrading over time, where maybe even battery life is getting much worse with 14.4 from what I'm hearing. Now, applications seem to run quickly on it. The camera seems to work fine, things like that, maybe opening weather, general apps will work fine, but there's just weird bugs that pop up throughout. So whether that be Bluetooth issues or more, there's definitely issues, and I'm really looking forward to Apple releasing iOS 14.5 to the public, since it fixes a lot of these issues. And with iOS 14.5 Beta 3, there are quite a few issues that are fixed, but there are some that remain, and the overall experience has been pretty good, but in general, it still needs a little bit of work, but we are in the beta series or beta phase of the update. So there still probably will be a couple more. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, since someone sent in a feature they hadn't seen before, is Carwin sent this in, and this popped up in messages for him. Now, I haven't seen this. You may have seen this with earlier versions, maybe even iOS 14.4, but quite a few people, including myself, have not seen this. So let me know if you've seen this already. But basically it says, talk instead of type. You can use Siri and tell it I'm running late to notify your friends via Siri. We know we can do these, but it's a new little notification that pops up and lets people know about it, to know that you can use Siri for dictation, for example, or use it in messages. So there's little tips that are popping up throughout. People message me about a lot. So I've talked about that, as well as the other feature I keep getting messages about that I mentioned the other day is TV providers showing up in other countries. This has been in the United States for quite some time. And as you can see here, it says AT&T Uverse. If I tap on this, what this allows is for single sign-in from your TV provider. Maybe you have a TV subscription you subscribe to in your location. This would allow you to access live TV on your phone through apps, for example. And so as you can see, it says AT&T Uverse has been saved as your TV provider. Because AT&T Uverse is not participating in single sign-on, you will need to sign in to other supported apps individually. And so I don't really have a TV provider, but I thought I'd show you this. So if you have different apps such as Hulu, for example, or HBO Go, or one of those, it allows you to sign in and maybe get free services if you already subscribe via a TV provider. So that's all that is, and it's in other countries, but I keep hearing about it, so I just wanted to bring it up again. Now, as far as the overall usage of this, quite a few people are saying battery is significantly better than Beta 2, and it has good standby. I'll talk more about that in depth in a little bit, but I thought quite a few of you would be happy to hear that as far as Beta 3 based off the YouTube community poll and hundreds of comments at this point. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about is green tint. Green tint is fixed in some ways, but not others. So the major issue when you're booting up the phone, for example, and there's green tint on the screen, that seems to be fixed. But other people are saying whether you're in dark mode or maybe you're on a really dark display and it dim levels, the green tint seems to be there depending on what you're looking at. So some people are still seeing this. I've never been able to replicate it on this iPhone 12 Pro Max. I've only sort of seen it on one iPhone 12, so maybe it's on certain types of displays, such as LG, for example, versus Samsung, since some of them are sourced from different locations or different companies. So far I haven't seen it here, and those that mentioned it before have not reported repeated showings of green tint showing up, so that seems to be fixed. As far as the HDR flicker and things, some people still report that. So if you're watching HDR video, they may see flickering. So if I go into YouTube, you'll see maybe we're on HDR and maybe you're playing a video like this. It's one I recorded in HDR using an iPhone. It's very bright for you just because this video is not in HDR, but if I turn this way down, some people are seeing flickering with the display when this is playing, for example. So some people will see flickering around the edges like it's a backlit display, even though it's OLED and it's not backlit. So there's definitely some issues that need to be fixed still as far as that goes, but I think we'll see those in future updates. So hopefully we'll see that by the time 14.5 is released. Now, as far as issues people had in beta 2 that are fixed now, the music EQ seems to be resolved. So maybe you're in the music app, find it here, music, the equalizer. If you have EQ turned on, this seems to be working again. This was not working in beta 2. It's been fixed now. But there's also a couple small issues that people are mentioning over and over and over. And I guess it's not necessarily a small issue, but rather an issue that's very annoying, and that's Bluetooth. Many people are having Bluetooth issues, including myself. I see disconnects from AirPods, from Powerbeats Pro, from AirPods Max. Anything that's connected to it seems to be a Bluetooth issue with these betas. Why that is, I'm not really sure, but it seems to be a continual issue for some. So that's something that I really hope is fixed, because that carries across to all devices, whether it be an iPhone 11, a 6S Plus, a 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max. All of them seem to be experiencing this sort of Bluetooth drop. So there's something within the code that probably needs to be fixed or addressed. Some people were saying they're having that fetch email problem I mentioned last week, where with beta 2, my email wasn't showing up. It seems to have improved for me with beta 3, but some people are mentioning it's a problem. Now, when you reboot your phone, the Apple logo was flashing before. That seems to be resolved. I haven't heard a single report with beta 3, and hopefully it's resolved for everyone, but no one has reported it with beta 3 for me. So what would happen is when you turn your phone off and reboot it and you get the Apple logo, it would flash and then it would go away and then it would come back on steady. It's not an issue that affects anything as far as usability, but it's just something that was a little bit of an annoyance. Now, one issue that's still there is if you're using MagSafe, for example, and you use MagSafe, the animation is not there. So if I attach this again, my screen's off, attach this, generally we would have an animation, but we don't have it on this particular version. So I think they'll bring this back soon, but right now we're not seeing it. Now, one thing that people are consistently seeing is if you reboot your device, you're having to sign back in to your iCloud account. So you'll get a notification here at the top in settings where you'll have to sign back in. Many people are seeing this every time they reboot their phone. I'm not seeing it on this iPhone 11, which I did reboot, so it's seemingly not having that problem, but I have seen it myself, and I had that issue with my Apple Watch where it wouldn't unlock with a mask until I rebooted, then re-entered the Apple ID, then it worked. So it's definitely something people are seeing. The other thing people are seeing a lot, including myself, is if you're using a HomePod Mini, Handoff is no longer working. So normally you would get close to the HomePod Mini with your iPhone, and it would, as you get closer, sort of vibrate the phone and then jump the song from your iPhone to the HomePod Mini. This functionality is completely gone in beta 3, it seems like. And I think that's just due to some issues with this beta. I've had issues within the Home app with it as well. I'd go into the Home app, thought maybe I had to update these to the beta, the HomePod Minis, and then the Home app would crash on me. So there's something strange going on. Also, I have this paired in stereo pairs, and I'm seeing that what's happening is when I try to play music from my phone to that stereo pair, for example, while I have the option for it, well, now I don't. It disappeared. There we go. You'll see it says Office Desk. There's 2 HomePod Minis. Normally you can just play and it will play between both of them. Now it's only playing on one. So there's something broken with that. Again, that's part of beta program testing, is you're going to run into those bugs and we just need to report them in feedback. Apple probably is aware of this already, but it's something that was broken with the beta. Maybe they changed something in the code and it broke that and they're working on fixing it. Now, I have had a couple touch issues with this beta as well. So when I was in YouTube, for example, sometimes just scrolling around, trying to get things to work, touch would stop working. It didn't work at all. I'd have to actually close the app, close it out, reopen it, and then it would resume touch. I couldn't scroll or anything, or sometimes I could scroll but not tap on things. So that's been a continued issue for me. Other people are saying that they're not seeing the app library for some reason. So that's disappeared for some people. So a couple people have mentioned that as well. I haven't seen that myself, but others are seeing that. Now, a lot of people are saying their notifications are not showing up properly as well. Now, Instagram notifications are working just fine for me, but for a lot of people, they're just not working. So I would suggest uninstalling the app, reinstalling it, and see if it resolves it. That really hasn't been an issue for quite a few people, but there are a couple people mentioning it, so it's definitely a problem for some. Now, on the iPad, the overall experience is pretty good, actually. There's not many issues going on. I haven't had any crashes whatsoever. I've had no touch responsiveness issues. The only issue I've had with my iPad is battery life, and that continues to be an issue on the iPad specifically for some reason. So for some reason, performance is great on all of these devices. The performance on iPhone and iPad seem to be fine, no issues there, but battery life for some reason on the iPad seems to be giving me a problem as well as others. So let's take a look at the iPad, then we'll take a look at battery life on the iPhone. And if we take a look at the last 10 days, you'll see it was last charged to 100% at 1:19 a.m. last night or early in the morning, and I used YouTube just a little bit. I'm already down to 88%, and I've used it for, 54 minutes. So that's a little bit more usage than normal, but generally I'm seeing about 5 hours of screen on time. On an iPad, I normally would get 10 hours on. Maybe it will improve over the next few days, but so far it hasn't been great. And you'll see YouTube, home, and lock screen are taking up the most. That could be notifications on the home and lock screen, but generally it shouldn't be doing that sort of battery life or that poorly with battery life. Now with iOS 14.5 Beta 3, many people say that battery life is great on this beta. So it looks like Apple focused on that or fixed something that was causing battery drain, because quite a few people are saying that throughout the community poll. And I'll show you that in a moment, but it was hard to find anyone saying it had poor battery life. So that's a really good sign. Usually I'll see at least a few people saying that it's poor. Most people say it's better. So let's take a look at the battery life. And battery health on my 12 Pro Max is still at 100%. And like I've said, battery health doesn't go down based on updates. It's just the physical battery being degraded over time. I would expect that to drop pretty soon, honestly, probably down to 99 or 98% soon. Now let's take a look at the battery life yesterday. I got 3 hours of screen on time and 1 hour and 20 minutes of screen off time, and I didn't yet use 50% of my battery. So it's actually doing pretty good. I would say it's better than it was with the previous beta, as if I go back here, you'll see sometimes, in this case, I got 6 hours of screen on time with almost 100% usage. This device should get 10 to 12 hours of screen on time, and many are reporting that. Again, with their 11 Pro Max, for example, many are reporting the 11 or 12 hours of screen on time or more that they got before with maybe iOS 13.7, for example. So that's a great sign. And as you can see, the home screen and lock screen are using most of my power, and that's usually notifications. So if I just turn those off, I probably can gain quite a bit of battery. So it looks like it's doing quite well in general compared to the previous betas that I would get about 6 hours of screen on time. It looks like I'll probably get about 9 or 10 hours from my phone. Now, as far as should you install this particular update, I would say if you're already on beta 2, absolutely. If you're trying to avoid a problem with iOS 14.4, I would avoid betas in general, just because you're going to experience other problems. It may fix your initial issue, but you'll have additional problems that you may not have had before. So that's just sort of what you get with beta testing, and then we report those in the feedback app, and it hopefully gets fixed based on priority from Apple. So I would say install it if you're already on the betas. If not, hold off, wait until it's finally released. Now, speaking of iOS 14.5, based on what we're seeing with this particular beta, Apple's sort of resumed their beta testing, and I would expect a weekly release until there's a final release. I would expect a release on Monday or Tuesday of this week, at the latest Wednesday, and then we'll have beta 4 with that. So iOS 14.5 beta 4, maybe release candidate at that point, but I wouldn't expect a release candidate yet, just because Apple has said that watchOS 7.4 will release in the spring or early spring. Based off that, we need iOS 14.5, which means we have to wait until the 21st at least until we have a release, since that's spring. So once we get to spring, then we have the end of March or early April for a final release. So I would expect beta 4 release candidate or something along those lines, maybe even beta 5 or 6, as we've seen up to 7 in the past. So we could see many different updates and then a final release at the end of March or early April based off that. So we're getting very close to that final release, and then after that we'll move on to say iOS 14.5.1 or 14.6 based off what they've been doing in the past, until we get to iOS 15, where we'll see that for the first time, usually in June, where they show it to developers. So I'm looking forward to that in particular, but let's go ahead and take a look at the YouTube community poll. And before we do that, here are all the statistics based off the battery life. So as far as battery life on here, 48 people commented on it, and like I said, most people said it was quite good. Some people are still having lags and freezing, and not one person mentioned that the phone overheated. One person did say it got a little bit warm, but when you're doing intensive tasks, that will happen. 6 people said it was crashing at the time of this video. Here are all the devices you're using as well. So quite a few people using iPhone 11 still, and iPhone 12 Pro Max keeps growing in the number of people using it. So that's pretty interesting. A lot of people seem to be upgrading to that phone. Now let's take a look at the YouTube community poll. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll, at the time of this video, there's 19,000 votes, which is just incredible. And as you can see, 15% say it's great, 3% say it's terrible. That's very good. And if we combine these statistics, these are the only people using iOS 14.5 Beta 3 commenting on this. 6% say it has some bugs still, 64% are on iOS 14.4 or older, and 12% are using Android. And I keep including Android since, well, 12% of you are still using it. So if you have any other suggestions for things we could use in the future for statistics, let me know in the comments below. There's 233 comments at the time of this video. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of them. So we'll sort by the newest first and scroll down, and as you can see, the first one from Kai says, Handoff stopped working for my HomePod after the update to Beta 3. I keep hearing this every single day, and it's definitely an issue. Daniel Lee says, one thing that definitely never happened before iOS 14.5 Beta 2 is if I'm listening to YouTube via my AirPods Pro and I remove one or both, say to charge them, when I put them back in and press play on the video I was listening to, the video plays, but no audio comes through the AirPods Pro for another 6 to 7 seconds. The only way to negate this is to double tap the video to go back 10 seconds or however long, and the audio plays immediately after going back. Could be a YouTube issue or iOS. I'm yet to try another app like Apple Music. This seems to be an issue with Bluetooth. So many people are mentioning issues with AirPods. I think it's definitely due to that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more. Sarcasm in a Box says, seems to be mostly all right on my iPhone 12. The only issue I've been having since the beginning of iOS 14.5 beta cycle is that the MagSafe charging animation just doesn't work at all on my end. Besides that, it's been very solid for me. Rithari says, hopefully I'm saying that properly, the Bluetooth switching issues with AirPods has finally been resolved for me. 12 Pro Max. Scorpion says, iPhone XR user, 14.5 Beta 3 fixed the only issue I had, sound EQ and music not working. iPhone had to be restarted in order to use Face ID while wearing a mask, but apart from that, my XR is running smooth and fast. Battery life is fantastic. Love the videos and the amazing wallpapers too. Thank you. And thanks for commenting. I really appreciate it. Brian Price says, iOS 14.5 Beta 3 has been fantastic on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. I'm seeing between 12 to 14 hours of screen battery life and have not seen any significant bugs. Anthony Lombardo says, iPad Air 3rd Gen on iPadOS 14.5. The performance is good, but the battery is kind of good, but needs improvement on the iPad. Tim Harold says, much better battery life on my iPhone 12 Pro compared to Beta 2. Polyman2 says, all good, but I'm having trouble with mail. I have an IMAP account, but it only brings down mail during the day if I have the mail app open. At night, when my iPhone 12 is on a sleep schedule, mail is automatically downloaded, and I see the notifications for this on the lock screen, which again doesn't happen during the day. Very bizarre. This has been the case since iOS 14.5 Beta 1 and is still present in Beta 3. Vasile says, on my iPhone 12 Pro Max, this beta is good. Battery life is significantly improved, especially in standby. In fact, with this version of iOS 14.5, we're approaching to a very good version of iOS 14. Many bugs have been fixed, but at the same time, some new features came out. A shout out to Aaron, or for Aaron, great videos. Thank you. Trippy Andrew says, only bug I've gotten is an occasional reboot when I'm playing a game. iPhone SE 2020, the last beta didn't have problems, but this beta only had a reboot bug for me. Battery seems to be good as well as is overall performance. Mukesh Lalwani says, in my iPhone XR, I've been using iOS 14.5 public beta 3. It's been very buggy and too many glitches. Like I didn't get any notifications of any third-party apps like Facebook, etc. Cameron Petrovich says, I'm not sure if it's just my iPhone 12 Pro Max or the software, but I'm having a lot of connectivity problems with Bluetooth audio devices like speakers and my AirPods. Also, every time I'm listening to a podcast on the podcast app and switch to another app, the entire app refreshes. The audio keeps playing, but when I go back to the app, it's like I'm opening it for the first time after closing out. Francesca Perry says, I've been using iOS 14.5 Beta 3 on my iPhone 11 for the past few days, and it runs great for me. So no major issues or hangups, smooth performance. Can't wait for the follow-up video. Love your videos. Thank you. Debbie says, much more frequent resprings in this build compared to the last one, iPhone 11 Pro and iPad Pro. Renelle Butler said, using XS Max, it's been great. The only thing I've seen is that it keeps having me to sign into my account if I reboot my device. There is some lag or frame rate drop at times, not a lot, but it does exist. I have sent the reports to Apple. Battery life seems to be good for me. I use a RAM cleaner to keep the iPhone fast. Mirko Kolak says, fast and fluid, no lag, but there are still connectivity issues, especially with my car and my watch. HomePod works fine, iPhone 12 Pro Max. Jeffrey Venner says, iPhone 12, no issues whatsoever. Battery is solid, maybe a smidge better than the previous beta, getting about 10 to 11 hours screen on time. Jamie Aviation said, I have an iPhone 11 Pro and it's so slow now after updating to 14.5. Wickedly Gravitational says, XS Max, no bugs, ideal performance, stable battery life. Braden says, it's been real great for me. The green tint issue is still not present. Battery is back to normal. The performance seems to be back to normal also. And so with iOS 14.5 Beta 3, it seems like Apple has fixed quite a few things, including battery, but there's still more to go. And of course, like I said, report it in feedback. Hopefully we'll get that fixed in future betas, which I would expect beta 4 this week, like I said. Let me know if you've found anything else, though, in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.